Hello Internet! Did you know that CSS tricks us into thinking it is easy? Don't be fooled, here are 5 awful CSS mistakes beginners as well as seasoned developers make, and you are going to learn how to fix them. Let's jump right in. The first mistake is you still Google how to center a div. Don't be a meme. First and foremost, remember the rule of thumb. Positioning elements should be done through the parent. So in this given HTML markup, the element with the class container applied should center its nested element with the class box. You can achieve this using the following 2 methods. First, you can use flexbox. For this, set justify items to center. This will position the box to the center of the horizontal axis. Then do the same with align items in order to position it to the center of the vertical axis. Second, you can use the CSS grid with display grid and set place items to center. You see, centering a div is not rocket science. The next mistake is not understanding how the height property works in combination with percentages. Let's take a look at this HTML markup. In our containing div, we have a parent div that consists of 2 children. Each child has a little bit of content. What we want to achieve is that each child should fill half of the space provided by the container. The container has a fixed height of 500 pixels. So someone might set the height for each child to 50%, but in fact not seeing anything change. Why is that? Let's break it down. Here, percentage refers to the parent element, which in our case is the div with the class parent. However, this div has no explicit height. Therefore, it falls back to the default behavior of all block elements. It receives a height that is just as big as it needs to be to fit the content. Now, how do we get out of this misery? Well, all we have to do is to set a height of 100% to our parent div, and it's working. Now the parent has a height of 500 pixels because it refers to the container div, which has a fixed height. And just as we would expect, each child has a height of 250 pixels. Another awful mistake beginners and even experienced developers make is using the important keyword. I know, this wildcard is really tempting. I admit it, I am guilty as well. I have fallen into this trap several times, but I have always regretted it later on. Yes, the important keyword seems to solve the current styling issue. However, you do not solve the actual underlying specificity conflict. All you did was plant a seed for yourself and all your fellow team members that will grow into a real debugging nightmare. Let's have a look at the following example. Here we have a headline and a button. They both receive a class that takes care of their general styling. Now, what if you want your button to have a blue background color instead of teal? You would create a new rule, like so. And be completely confused why your change does not take effect. So you take the simple solution, add the important keyword, and call it a day. But wait, what you should actually do is fix the specificity conflict. You see, we are competing against this general styling class. We might add a more specific selector like an ID selector. In this case, we could also add a class selector and benefit from the cascading nature of CSS. Since the button class comes after the general styling class, our button class takes precedence. So to summarize, at best you never use the important keyword. At worst, you only use it as a last resort. This way, as your codebase grows and your style sheets get bigger and more complex, you can always rely on the natural laws of CSS regarding order and specificity. Another dangerous mistake way too many programmers make is underestimating CSS. Admittedly, the syntax and the overall concepts are fairly easy and quick to grasp. However, as your website scales, getting a lot bigger and more complex, implementing CSS can get really tricky and actually quite difficult. On top of larger style sheets, complicated specificity when using third-party plugins, and nested selectors, you also face lots of inconsistencies among the many different browsers. You see, each browser comes with its own default styles for HTML elements. A scroll bar might look and behave totally different in two separate browsers. Add responsive behavior for small and large screens into the mix, and you end up with a time-consuming CSS challenge. So, in order to not underestimate CSS, you really need to get your fundamentals straight. This can be achieved by following a structured plan combined with practice, practice, practice. It just so happens that I have created a course that teaches you all core concepts of CSS in a fun and fast way. Each course section focuses on one concept, comes with quizzes, exercises, and solutions, and can be completed on its own. Want to learn more about Flexbox, animations, or media queries? Just jump straight into the respective section. Check out the link in the description. The next common CSS mistake is flooding the style sheet with redundant properties. This is often the result of forgetting about inheritance. Inheritance shouldn't be a daunting word, but rather an efficiency tool that keeps your style sheets cleaned up. It essentially means that elements can inherit certain styles from their parent. Let's examine this markup. Here we have a container div with two paragraphs inside. The style sheet declares a font size of 20 pixels for the div. Not knowing about inheritance, one might add font size 20 pixels to the paragraphs. Well, obviously nothing happens to our paragraphs. Using the browser's developer tools, we can easily see the reason. Our paragraphs have already inherited these 20 pixels from the parent, so we can remove this redundant rule again without hesitation. As a little bonus, what's another bad mistake a developer can make? Not using CSS variables. They are amazing for keeping style sheets organized and prevent ugly duplications. Here's a video that teaches you all about CSS variables. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for your support, and I am looking forward to seeing you in the next video.